what's in it, what's going in it, where is it now, okay? Where are we now in the process, and a bit about Theddlethorpe and why we're worried about Theddlethorpe and why we think Theddlethorpe might not be the right place for this, and what are other countries doing. So, GDF, the Geological Disposal Facility, is a function of RWM, Radioactive Waste Management, which is part of the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, which in turn is part of the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Studies, BEIS, which tells you that the RWM is not an independent facility or an independent body. They are a government-owned and government-funded body. Okay? Oh, it's advancing on its own, which it shouldn't do. Waste of primary concern. The waste to go into a GDF primarily is high-level waste. This is the waste that gets really, really hot, and that's where disposing of it is a big problem. Okay? Spent nuclear rods that come out of a reactor generally sit in a cooling pond for about 20 years before they're cool enough to actually be considered for longer-term storage. Okay? That's pretty hot. All right? So the waste that they want to put in this facility, in this GDF, would be the higher level waste predominantly. At this point, between 75 and 80% of that waste is currently at Sellafield in Cumbria. Okay? It is not here in Lincolnshire. None of it is here in Lincolnshire. RWM are tasked with engaging communities to find a suitable GDF location. And this has been a long process for the government. And RWM came about in about 2008 when they realized that signing a GDF wasn't going to be as easy as they might have thought at one point in time. RWM is approached by a local council, okay? And in which case the leader of East Lindsey District Council, we understand, is the individual that approached RWM at a industry trade show and said, hey, we might be interested. RWM then are obliged to explore that further to try and find a willing community. Okay? So they are currently working with Allendale in Cumbria and also with Copeland in Cumbria. Some of you may have heard that somebody in Hartlepool's head rolled when they thought about becoming more involved. Somebody lost their job up in Hartlepool. So they are not as far along in the process of discussions as we are here in Theddlethorpe already. There is something called the Test of Public Support. We have a presentation about it, which is, I think, over there. Okay. I have it on here. It's probably going to be the next one we go to, unless you're more interested in the jobs in the questions document. The Test of Public Support is what a lot of people have asked about so far this morning. When is this going to happen? When are we going to be able to say yes or no and actually be able to move forward with that? And we know that there is only one test of public support. We will get one chance to say yes or no. When we get that chance is really up for discussion because it could be anywhere from a number of months to a number of years. Yes, sir.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
On the RWS papers, it suggests that when they create a community partnership group,
yes,
that group will decide if and when a referendum or test of public support takes place. The big word being if.
Oh, it's over there. Okay, great, thank you. So the test of public support, we don't get to it, it's over there on the green doors. We are at the working group stage now. So I'll talk about that in a second. It's on the next slide, actually. Again, my lovely, is it there? Hold on, I think my diagram is there. There it is. Hello. Welcome back. Right, so there are my lovely diagrams there about where nuclear waste is currently generated and where it's currently stored. And again, you'll notice that there is none in this county. I kind of like to keep it that way. All right, so this is military waste, this is civilian waste, and you can see that there's high and low heat generating waste on the left-hand side. High heat is the blue dots, and that is the high level that we would be looking to receive here in a GDF. The test of public support is very contentious because the definition of what public is has changed significantly since RWM was founded in 2008. Okay, it's gone from the host community making the decision to it could also include anybody along the route, where the waste is coming from, etc. So it is a test of public support, but not necessarily local support. And this is something that we want to make sure that we're talking to our councillors about, to make sure that we get more weight to a vote for residents that are nearer, to make sure that our voices here are heard perhaps louder than another community that may get a say along the way. In 2008, it would have just been Theddlethorpe Ward. But now, in 2018, on the third revision of RWM's white paper, they now have watered that down, where the host community could include any of these things. So this is a community that the lorry drives through, or that the train car carrying the waste travels through. So we could have people that are not even in this county having a vote on this. And we absolutely cannot let that happen. We're here in the working group stage. Over in Cumbria, there are 2 community partnerships in Copeland, and we understand that Allerdale are also going into community partnership. Some of you may have heard about £1 million a year, up to £1 million a year. That money kicks in for a community once you form a community partnership. It is up to £1 million a year. It is not allowed to be used as a stopgap for local funding. So if you think your roads are going to get fixed, they're not. That money will be put towards communities may bid on it, or charities and community organizations can vie for their share of that money to help fund those community events. And their community, like a community center, it could be somebody like a gardening group, etc. So they would be the people that would be vying for that money. That money is not intended to be used for any budgeting shortfalls from a local authority budget. Again, it's up to $1 million during the community partnership phase, and the first stage of the community partnership when they're doing local studies before they start drilling anything. All right. Once they start drilling boreholes, which is where they double check to make sure that the geology is correct, that money goes up to £2.5 million per year per community partnership. A community partnership is not the same as a working group. One working group can have a number of community partnerships within it. Copeland has 1 working group and 2 community partnerships. There is a document, I believe it's on our WM site, that says they have lines drawn out, and I saw the Mablethorpe and Sutton community partnership line drawn out. If Mablethorpe and Sutton wanted to start a community partnership and get their share of money, they could do that as well. It's not addressed anywhere how much money communities get after the process is complete. If a community says, yes, we'll have it, then what do they get? Because this money goes up to where the test of public support occurs and the right of withdrawal. Until the test of public support occurs, a community can pull out of the process. But that would have to happen, not ourselves, it would have to happen from the councils involved. We know that Theddlethorpe Parish Council are on the working group, as well as Lincolnshire County Council and East Lindsey District Council. We expect them to vote on the 3rd of November to also join the group. At this point, they'd kind of be silly not to be fair, because they don't want to have the county council making decisions for them. So they'll want to be involved in that. So this is where we're at right now. You can see down at the bottom, it's about 5 years at the bottom, and then 10 to 15 years. Earlier when we had this talk at about 11 o'clock, we were talking about that it could be 20, 30, 40 years before this facility is actually up and running. So this is a long time away from now. And I know some people are looking at each other going, I'm not going to be here. I might be here, so I'm really worried about this. Okay? But it's not even about that. It's about the future. It's about future generations. If we all took the the view that, well, I'm gonna be dead, so it doesn't matter, then why are we here? Why are we having these discussions? Okay, but this is something that's a long time in the future. One of the things that was really expressed in the first group of presentations was, can we please get this test to public support and get the uncertainty out of the way? And the answer to that is a community partnership will have to decide when that test is going to happen. And we're not at a community partnership yet. That is probably 6 to 18 months roughly away. So this is a long process. And one of the things we want to do is get enough interest in it now and make sure people realize what's going on. It would be great if we could convince the councils to withdraw from it right now. And that's probably the quickest way to solve this would be to get the councils to say, we don't want it and withdraw. But I think we're all reasonable people, and I don't think the councils are going to do that. Concerns about the site. Why do we think this site is not suitable? If you're not familiar with our organization, we come from all aspects of the political spectrum. We are all very different people, different walks of life. Many of us didn't know each other beforehand, unless we were living in a small community. We come from all over the place, and we are all together because we do not believe that this GDF should be here in Theddlethorpe. Whether we believe it should be anywhere else or not, that's up to different individuals. And you may think that, you know, this is the right way to do this. This is the right way to dispose of this waste. We made this waste. This is a society problem. We've got to deal with it. But is here the right place? Yes or no, and why? One of the main reasons why this is an unsuitable location, and this is from RWM's own information, is that we have a lot of exploration rights here for gas, for oil, for coal, both onshore and offshore. So if they were to go and dig down and bury this nuclear waste, there is a decent chance that somebody could come along in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, and disturb the facility by digging or drilling. And that's a big concern for RWM, and is one of the reasons why they thought that this area might not be the best area for them. We couldn't agree more that this is not the right area for them, but they're obliged to push forward. Okay, so when you see about geology, you know that this is an unsuitable area, RWM are obliged to follow the lead of council. Okay, so they are, right now, because they have a council that is an interested party, they have to keep pushing forward with this. All right. So these are the areas around here where we have current exploration and development licenses issued. And when they talk about known gas resources, also concerns about drilling that has happened, and some of that drilling may affect the way water moves between rocks. Water moving between rocks doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is when you're talking about burying stuff underground that's supposed to last 100,000 years without being disturbed. For those of you that aren't familiar with nuclear waste or nuclear, much of nuclear anything, the half-life of some of the highest level waste is 100,000 years. We have a diagram somewhere that shows you what 100,000 years actually looks like. The pyramids were built about 7,000 years ago. So that's not long when you think about it. Nothing's ever lasted that long. Nothing's lasted 100,000 years. No man-made structure has lasted that long. Yeah, sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. I'm much less articulate than I was in the earlier one, sorry. Right, so Theddlethorpe's unsuitable for this GDF, even by their own research. As I just said, their geological surveys have said that the geology here might not be right. Okay? We definitely don't think it's right. Okay? That added to the exploration licenses and the chances that the dump could be disturbed in future years, just for us to say that this is not the right place for it. Regardless of how you feel about nuclear waste and nuclear, doesn't matter, this isn't the right place for it. And I think, hopefully, before we even get to too much further in the process, that will be realized that it's just not the right place and we can withdraw from the process. Other countries and their GDFs. John heard yet? It's pretty heavy, isn't it? Yeah. You might have heard a lot about Finland. We're going to talk about Finland in a minute. We're talking about different GDFs in other countries. It's important to say that the only GDF that's actually up and running is in the US. Right? So the other ones I talk about, the one in France, and one in Sweden, which I don't have a slide about, one in Finland, they're not actually open yet. Okay? The one in France is in an area with about 5 inhabitants per square kilometer. Okay? And the residents there said to having the dump about 20-ish years ago. So underground there, under all the farmland, they have had an underground laboratory for about 20 years. Now, push has come to shove, and they want to start burying waste there. And the residents have changed their mind. And so now France is kind of in this strange position of what do they do? This community was willing 20 years ago, and now it's not. Okay, will the will of the people stand? They do not have it open. They expect it to be open in next year. It also is intended that you can retrieve from it. The GDF that they're discussing here is not going to be able to be retrieved from. Once it's sealed off, it's done. And they have theirs set where they could retrieve stuff in the first 100 years and then seal it off. So that's the French plan. Carlsbad, New Mexico. Carlsbad is 20 miles away from this place. Don't be fooled. It's not in Carlsbad. Okay, Carlsbad, New Mexico, the WIP is what they call it, the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant. It was opened in 1999. It is only military waste. Only military waste. There's no civilian waste there at all. It is brought by lorry on designated motorways within the United States from the various military installations. The nearest settlement, the nearest houses are 20 kilometers away. Sorry to speak in miles and kilometers. All the little white dots you see around there are actually oil wells. Why this area was chosen, number one, there's nobody near it. Number two, it's actually a ancient sea, a prehistoric sea. So underground there, it's all salt. So all the walls and everything of the GDF are salt. Salt's great because it repairs itself. One of the things to mention about this place is that it's had a couple of incidents since 1999, not a load, but the last one was on account of somebody used the wrong brand of cat litter. You know, what are they using cat litter in a dump for? Anytime you get a little dribble, they use kitty litter to soak it up. You know how you do oil in your garage, you might put kitty litter down to soak it up. Apparently they use kitty litter in the nuclear waste industry just to soak up little dribbles. And somebody used the wrong brand of kitty litter. I don't know if it had a self-clumping or odor killers or whatever, but it caused the top to blow off of a barrel of waste. And it contaminated the area, and it led to it being closed for a significant amount of time. Folks, if kitty litter can make that happen, really? Do we really want that around here? Finland is an interesting one. Finland's nuclear dump is supposed to be open in about 2 years' time. It is on an island with 3 nuclear reactors. Finnish government said, you can't send it anywhere, and you guys figure it out. You're making the waste, you're making the money off the energy. You figure it out. So this was the problem of the electricity providers, not a government problem like it is in this country. The government has taken this on, as opposed to saying to EDF, well, most of the reactors here, you sort it out. Okay? Finland has 5 nuclear reactors for a very small population. So it is predominantly a nuclear energized country. The acceptance of nuclear energy and the waste coming with it is much more acceptable. But still, the nearest house is 3 kilometers from this dump. I know somebody was in here earlier and said they were 500 feet from it, 500 yards from the perimeter of it. Okay, so we're talking 3 kilometers, and the nearest village is actually off that island, and it's 8 kilometers away. The thought about importing waste, we did have a gentleman who was very, very interesting here, the first one, where his had a relation that had worked at Sellafield, and talking about the amount of waste that's actually being imported into this country, because obviously you get paid handsomely for taking it. And I think I certainly wasn't aware of that, and that makes me that much more concerned about, taking on waste. We're sending our plastic waste to Turkey, where it's being dumped on small villages. So it's just, something just doesn't seem right about that. This GDF will be closer to more people than any other similar facility. Mablethorpe has 622 inhabitants per square kilometer, and Theddlethorpe has about 40 inhabitants per square kilometer. So that's quite a few people that would be living close by this. No, that's just residents, yeah. This doesn't include any caravan parks or any tourists. This is people that live here all year round. All right. Go to this one here. I'm going to go to this one, because this is a really, really powerful presentation. It is long, but it's very hold on here, I'm going to turn this down here since I want it to stop. I want it to stop moving on its own. This is a presentation with questions that you might want to ask if you are coming to an RWM meeting or going to an RWM drop-in. These are all the unanswered questions that are